Welcome children to my class. Today we'll be doing chapter 18 from grammar, phrases and clauses. Here we will get to know about phrases and clauses and their types. So let's see first what is a phrase. A group of words that does not make complete sense by itself is known as a phrase. It doesn't have a complete meaning. The sentence will be incomplete, right? Some examples you can see here. Some people in India. So you will not get the full meaning in this sentence. Some people in India. Bunch of roses. Here also the meaning is incomplete. So both these sentences do not make complete sense by themselves. So phrase is a group of words that doesn't make complete sense by itself. Doesn't have a complete meaning. Now types of phrases. What are the different types of phrases? Noun phrase, verb phrase, prepositional phrase, adjective phrase and adverbial phrase. So noun phrase, the phrase that has a noun or pronoun as the main word is called a noun phrase. For example, my brother, the cat, a good student. I can give you some more examples like Akbar was a great king. Calcutta is on the Hooghly. The rose smells sweet. The sun shines bright. His courage won him honor. So the phrase that has a noun or pronoun is known as a noun phrase. Here, for example, my brother, the cat, a good student. Verb phrase, the phrase that has a verb. What do you mean by verb? Verb is a doing word or more than one verb as the main word is called a verb phrase. For example, can, sing, will, do, is, going, these all are doing words. So in a sentence where you will get a verb, a phrase that has a verb or more than one verb as the main word is called a verb phrase. Like the girl wrote a letter to her cousin. Calcutta is a big town. Iron and copper are useful metals. So these are some more examples I am just telling to you all. Prepositional phrase. The phrase that begins with a preposition is called a prepositional phrase. For example, at home, in the garden, on the table. So the phrase that begins with a preposition, right, is called a prepositional phrase. Like there is a cow in the garden. The girl is fond of music. A fair little girl sat under a tree. These are some more examples. At, in, on, through, under, above. So adjective phrase, the phrase that describes a noun. We already know that adjectives are known as describing words. So the phrase that describes a noun or pronoun is called adjective phrase. It may have an adjective as the main word. For example, very poor, extremely good, too difficult. Like you can say, he is a brave boy. There are 20 boys in this class. Tall trees, dark forest. These all are adjective. Main word. Adverbial phrase. The phrase that has an adverb as the main word is called an adverbial phrase. For example, very quickly, quite happily. So an adverb is a word used to add something to the meaning of a verb or that modifies the meaning of a verb, an adjective or another adverb. Like he worked the sum quickly. This flower is very beautiful. She pronounced the word quite correctly. So I just repeat again. Noun phrase. The phrase that has a noun or pronoun as the main word is called a noun phrase. For example, my brother, the cat, a good student. Or you can say some more examples like Akbar was a great king, the rose smells sweet, the sun shines bright, etc. Verb phrase, the phrase that has a verb. Verb means doing words or more than one verb as the main word is called a verb phrase. For example, can, sing, will, do, is going. The girl wrote a letter to her cousin. Calcutta is a big town. Adjective phrase, the phrase that describes a noun or pronoun is called an adjective phrase. It may have an adjective as the main word. For example, very poor, extremely good, too difficult. Adjective means describing words. Or you can say tall trees, dark forest, etc. Adverbial phrase, the phrase that has an adverb as the main word is called an adverbial phrase. So, adverb is a word that modifies the meaning of a verb, an adjective or another adverb. Like he worked the psalm quickly. This flower is very beautiful. She pronounced the word quite correctly. So, these are the different types of phrases. Now, we'll move to clause. A clause is a group of words with a subject and a predicate. It is usually a part of a sentence. So look at this sentence. The sky looks blue in the morning. So a clause is a group of words with a subject and a predicate. It will have a subject also, it will have a predicate also, and it is usually a part of a sentence. So, the sky looks blue in the morning. In the above sentence, the group of words, the sky looks blue, has a subject. And which one is the subject? The sky. And a predicate, looks blue. So, it is a clause. A clause must have a verb in it. So, here the verb is looks. Clauses may or may not make complete sense. So, sometimes a clause may or may not make a complete sense. You just try to remember that a clause must have a verb in it, and it is usually a part of a sentence with a subject and a predicate. You have already learned the difference between a phrase and a clause. The following table shows the differences among phrases, clauses, and sentences. A sentence must have a subject, a verb, and convey a complete thought. A sentence is made up of one or more clauses. A clause has a subject and a verb, but may or may not convey a complete thought. Means it may or may not make a complete sense. A clause is made up of one or more phrases. Group of words that does not convey a complete thought means it is a phrase. It does not make a complete sense. A phrase is made up of one or more words. Now, how many types of clauses are there? There are two types of clauses, main clause and subordinate clause. Look at the following sentence. Rani works very hard. The above sentence has only one subject, Rani, and one predicate, works very hard. Since the sentence has only one subject and one predicate, it can be said that the sentence has only one clause. This clause makes complete sense on its own. So, we will get the complete meaning of this sentence. Rani works very hard. Dependent clause. Look at this sentence. A clause that makes complete sense on its own is known as the main clause or independent clause. Rani works very hard so that she can perform well in the examination. Here Rani works. We already got the meaning. So clause 1 in the above sentence gives complete information and may be used on its own, that Rani is working hard. She works very hard. Therefore, it is the main clause of the sentence. We got the full meaning, complete sense. Clause 2 gives some additional information on the purpose of the action in the sentence, that is hard work. It does not make complete sense and cannot be used on its own. Such clauses are called dependent clauses because they have to depend on the main clause to make complete sense. So clause 2 we can see, so that she can perform well in the examination. It doesn't have a complete sense, it doesn't have a complete meaning. So it is dependent on the main clause. So clause 2 is the dependent clause because they have to depend on the main clause to make a complete sense. If we say only that so that she can perform well in the exams, we are not getting a complete meaning. Right? So Rani works very hard so that she can perform well in the examination. So clause 2 is fully dependent on clause 1 to get a complete meaning. They are also known as subordinate clauses because they are less important than the main clause in the sentence. So this dependent clause is also known as subordinate clause because they are less important than the main clause. So a clause that doesn't make complete sense on its own is known as a dependent or subordinate clause. And a clause that makes complete sense on its own is known as the main clause or independent clause. Like we can see here, Rani works very hard. And dependent clause is there so that she can perform well in the examination. So a clause that does not make complete sense on its own is known as dependent or subordinate clause. So I hope you have all understood phrases and clauses and their types. So children, if you have any doubt, you can ask me in the live class. Thank you children.